Hello crochet artists, it's Kat here and welcome back to another round of crochet goodness. For this project, I'm using an 8-ply soft indophil yarn that you can find in the Philippines. If you're living outside the Philippines, you can use either a sport weight yarn or a superfine because this yarn is more on the thinner side. We also need a 3.5mm crochet hook, a yarn needle, scissors, and a couple of stitch markers. Join this week's giveaway and grab the chance to get the PDF pattern of this stuff for free by answering the question below. If you are new to this channel, hello, my name is Kat and I do crochet tutorials. You can follow me on Instagram as well as my Facebook page at What About Yarn. And if you like this video, please hit like and subscribe. Begin with a slip knot and we're going to work a chain of odd numbers. We're going to start working on the neck, so make sure that you don't chain too long because later we're going to add 1 inch on both sides for the side ribbing. For my size, I will do a total of 19 chains. When you have 19 chains, we're going to work a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook, and to work a double crochet, you're going to yarn over and insert the hook into the 4th chain. Grab the yarn and pull up a loop. We have 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops and yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on your hook and repeat that same stitch into each of the chains across. End of the row, I have a total of 17 double crochet. Now chain 3. Chain 3 here will count as 1 double crochet and turn your work. And we're going to work 1 double crochet in each of the stitches across. This is for row 2. And you will keep on working row 2, repeating that row until we have a total of 4 rows. Here I have 4 rows. Now proceed to row 5 with a chain of 3 and turn your work. Again, chain 3 will count as 1 stitch or 1 double crochet. Now we're going to skip the next stitch and then we're going to do 3 stitches on the 3rd stitch. And those 3 stitches is a puff stitch, a chain of 1, and another puff stitch. To do a puff stitch, you're going to yarn over and insert the hook into the stitch. Grab the yarn and pull up a loop. And you need to pull the loop just a little bit higher. Yarn over and insert the hook into the stitch. Grab the yarn and pull up a loop. And do that one more time. Yarn over, insert the hook into the stitch, grab the yarn and pull up a loop. And we're going to yarn over and pull through all of those loops on your hook. Now chain 1 to close this stitch. That is our puff stitch. Now for the 2nd stitch, we will chain 1. And for the 3rd stitch, we're going to work again another puff stitch all in that same stitch. Now skip the next stitch and double crochet on the next stitch. And this will be the pattern that you will repeat until you get to the end of the row. So what you're going to do next is skip the next stitch and again work the puff, chain 1 and puff into the next stitch. Chain 1 and puff. So as you can see, it's basically the repeat of what we did. So now skip the next stitch again and work a double crochet on the next stitch. So keep on working this pattern all the way until you reach the end of the row. End of row. Continue with a chain of 3. Again, chain 3 will count as 1 stitch and turn your work. Now for this row, we're going to repeat that same 3 stitches all in that chain or center chain 1 space. So puff, a chain of 1 and another puff. All of those 3 stitches into that same chain 1 space. like so. Now into the double crochet stitch, we're going to start our increases. So work 2 double crochet in each of the double crochet stitch from the previous row. So 2 double crochet into the double crochet stitch. 1 and 2. And again, into the center chain 1 space, we will do the 3 stitches. Puff, chain 1, and puff. So continue with this pattern all the way until you get to the end. At the end of the row, work your last double crochet stitch into the 3rd chain of the beginning or turning chain 3. Now moving on to the next row, chain 3. Chain 3 again will count as 1 stitch and turn your work. And again work 3 stitches into that center chain 1 space, which is a puff, a chain of 1, and another puff. So we have here 2 double crochet. Now what we're going to do is work 2 double crochet in each of those double crochets. So that means we will have 4 double crochet stitch in this row for the increases. So another 2 double crochet into that double crochet stitch. So here we have 4 double crochet. Now continue with the 3 stitches into the center chain 1 space and 4 double crochet into the double crochet stitches. Continue that until you get to the end. End of row. Now take your stitch markers and we're going to place it into the 2nd and 3rd double crochet stitch. These 2 stitches are sitting next to each other, which means that this will be the placement of the increases later on. If this is the first time you're making this top, it will be a little bit difficult for you, but as you go along, you will get used to it and you won't need to use the stitch markers anymore. Like so. Now that is the increasing row. Now let's proceed with the next row, row number 8, chain 3. Row number 8 is a non-increasing row. So turn your work and work again 3 stitches into that same chain 1 space, which is a puff, a chain of 1, and another puff. So non-increasing row, that means we will only do 1 stitch in each of the stitches. So work 1 double crochet in each of the double crochet row below. Now make sure to remove the stitch marker and place it back again. Continue working 1 double crochet in each stitch, as well as 3 stitches into the center chain 1 space all the way across. End of row 8, non-increasing row. Continue with row 9 with a chain of 3 and turn your work. Row 9 is an increasing row, and from here on we will repeat row 8 and row 9 for the rest of the pattern. So work the 3 stitches into the center chain 1 space. Continue with 1 double crochet into the first double crochet stitch. And from here, we will do our first increase into the first stitch marker. So every time you will repeat row number 9, you will only work your increases into the stitch marker. So work the increase, which is a 2 double crochet stitch, into the first stitch marker. And we will place the stitch marker back into the second double crochet stitch. And next, work the second increase into the second stitch marker. Second increase means we will work again another 2 double crochet in that same stitch. Now this time, instead of placing the stitch marker in the second stitch, we will place it into the first stitch. So as I said earlier, these stitch markers needs to sit next to each other. So whenever there's a stitch marker, that is where we will place our increases. Continue following the pattern for the rest of the stitches across. When you get to the end, you will repeat row 8, the non-increasing row, and row 9, increasing row, until the length of your top will go from the neck down to your waist or down to your desired length. For my size, I will do a total of 31 rows from the beginning, but please feel free to extend as many rows as you want. Just make sure that you will stop your last row at row number 9 or the increasing row. Here is my panel. I did have to redo my row number 9 because I accidentally skipped a stitch. I have a total of 31 rows for this. Now we're going to continue working the border. So start with a chain of 3. And we're going to place again the same 3 stitches into the center chain 1 space. So puff, chain 1, and puff. From here, we will work single crochet in each of the stitch until we get to the first increasing stitches. If you can remember earlier, we did 2 double crochet into the stitch markers. So continue working a single crochet. Single crochet, you're going to insert the hook into the stitch, grab the yarn and pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So repeat that same stitch into each of the chains until you reach the first increasing stitch. Here at the first increasing stitch, we have the 2 double crochet and the second increasing stitch. So you're going to work the 3 stitches, the puff, chain 1, and puff, into the space in between those 2 increasing stitches. So there's no definite stitch here, you're just going to place it in between those 2. So puff, chain 1, and puff. After doing this, we're going to skip the second increasing stitches and continue with a single crochet. So continue the single crochet until you get to the second chain 1 space and work again the same 3 stitches, single crochet. Work again the 3 stitches in between the 2 increasing stitch. Continue working that all the way across. At the end of the row, you're going to work the double crochet or your last stitch into the top chain of the turning chain 3. After this, we're going to work the side ribbing. For the ribbing, do not cut the yarn and continue with a chain of 8. Now, if you prefer a wider rib, please feel free to extend the number of chains. Once you have 8 chains, we're going to double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. as well as for the rest of the chains. At the end, we will have 6 stitches. Now continue by skipping the first row of puff, and we're going to slip stitch into the next 2 rows. So slip stitch 1 and slip stitch 2. Turn your work. And from here, we're going to do a double crochet in each stitch, only this time we're going to place or insert the hook into the back loop of each stitch. And this stitch is called a double crochet back loop only. So to do that, you're going to yarn over and insert the hook into the back loop of the first double crochet stitch. Grab the yarn and pull up a loop, and continue working the pattern exactly the same as you do your double crochet stitch. Continue doing that all the way across. At the end of the row, you're going to work a normal double crochet, not a double crochet back loop, into the 3rd chain of the turning chain 3. Continue with a chain of 3 and turn your work. And again, do a double crochet back loop all the way across, skip the first row and slip stitch twice, turn your work, and repeat the same thing all the way until you reach the top. When you reach the top, you're going to fasten off and cut the yarn, and repeat the same procedure as the other side ribbing. After that, we're going to attach the yarn into the last stitch at the corner of the neck. And we're going to chain as many chains as you need. That is enough to be able to work the tie straps for the neck area. For my size, I will do a total of 95 chains. When you have your chains, you're going to cut the yarn and fasten off, and we're going to attach the yarn again at the other side of the corner of the neck area. So you will repeat the same number of chains for that. And once you have that, you're going to single crochet into the 2nd chain from the hook, as well as for each of the chains until you get to the panel in the neck. Repeat the single crochet and do that all the way until the other side of the chains. Once you finish this row, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. And again, repeat another row of single crochet for each of the chains across, and fasten off and cut the yarn. Now moving on with the straps, we're going to attach the yarn into the lower corner stitch of the panel. And from there, we're going to continue with a chain that will go all the way to our back side. So for my size, I will do a total of 110 chains, but please feel free to extend as many chains as you need for your size. Single crochet in the 2nd chain from the hook, and single crochet in each of the chains. When you get to the end of this row, you're going to skip the first row at the panel and slip stitch into the 2nd row. Turn your work, and again work a row of single crochet all the way until you reach the end of your strap. Cut the yarn and fasten off. After that, you'll repeat the same thing for the other side straps. And all that's left to do now is to weave in your ends, and it's done. That marks the end of this tutorial. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to write them down below, and I will do my best to answer them. Don't forget to join this week's giveaway by answering the question below. If you will make this top, please don't forget to tag me on social media at whataboutYarn, and I would gladly feature your works. Thank you so much guys for watching, and as always, have a good day. I'll see you on the next video.